Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Finance coach warns anyone claiming insider knowledge on XRP is fake. Okay guys, let's get into it. Okay, so the finance coach in question is Coach JV. You guys are probably familiar with him. And yeah, he's talking about people making fake insider knowledge claims with regards to XRP. Yeah, I absolutely agree with this. Obviously, for you guys who've been following my channel for long enough, you know that I've been fighting against a lot of misinformation when it comes to the XRP community. And, you know, like, I'm going to continue to do so, even though, you know, I get a lot of hate for it, because obviously the people who want to believe the things about XRP that they feel like, you know, you're offending their beliefs or whatever. It's not that I'm trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to give you the truth. And so, you know, the people who want to get offended, obviously that's up to them. They, you know, are going to react however they're going to react. But there's people out there who are on the edge or unsure, or people who may not have seen certain bits of information that I provide, which then makes them think twice. And that's the kind of people who I'm trying to aim for. The people who want to believe this, you know, without having any kind of rational debate or anything like that, you're not going to change their minds, right? Because they believe what they're going to believe. So for them, I already know it's kind of like a lost cause. But for the people who are on the fence, or people who are just waiting to see some evidence that could maybe make them think twice, it's those guys who I try and think of. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to discuss this because, once again, you've got to understand, with XRP, it's one of the biggest crypto communities out there, right? It really is. And so the problem with that is there's a lot of theories that have gone around with that. And because there's such a, you know, a big community, like, you know, I've said this before, but XRP is one of the only communities I know that even within itself, it's kind of fractured, because you've got this big community of XRP holders, but then you've got the people who believe in, like, for example, like $10,000 and that kind of stuff. And then you've got the people who don't believe in that stuff. And it seems like even those two are at war with each other. Now, for me personally, I've got my beliefs, which is that it's more grounded. I don't believe in the $10,000 theory, but I don't dislike people who believe in $10,000. Like, I think if you want to believe that, that's fine. I just give my evidence and data as to why I don't think that's realistic, right? But I don't get angry with people because they believe in $10,000. What does annoy me is when they come at me so much because I'm just trying to show people why I don't think it's realistic, and then they attack me, because I think it's just immature, personally. You know, like, we can have a reasonable debate and at the end we can agree to disagree. That's fine. I don't think it has to be a thing where we're calling each other an idiot and getting into the high school antics and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of people out here who try and take advantage of the fact that there's such a big community, because I've said this before, but if you really want to be a big influencer when it comes to XRP, or even crypto, like, it's very easy, because you just pick XRP because it's got such a big community and just play into the $10,000 stuff. I'm telling you now, you will get a audience very quickly. Now, you probably got to be a bit skilled in terms of, you know, how you articulate yourself and stuff like that. But as long as you can, you know, as long as you can put together a video decent, half decent, and just spew the most radical things about XRP and it go into these crazy numbers and stuff, you'll get an audience, because there's people who want to believe all that stuff. So it's very easy to amass an audience like that. And you can see from my channel, I'm the example of what happens when you don't do that, right? I'm the person who came out from the beginning saying this stuff isn't realistic, and I was fighting against it from the beginning, and you can see how small my channel is. So that's the result of not doing the, you know, the hype content and stuff like that. It shows you the difference. But yeah, the thing for me about this is, like, it's just about trying to warn people, because, you know, Coach JV saying this, and he's a much bigger influencer than me. Not that I really like influencer, I prefer the term content creator personally, but it is what it is. But, like, him saying it, I'm hoping more people will take note of this. Now, I will just throw a quick caveat in here. Coach JV has made some incorrect claims as well, in all honesty. Like, he's made some claims about XRP price and stuff like that has been incorrect. So I can't just kind of let him completely off the hook. And this is one thing that I will say, like, I don't know if it's a thing where people build up an audience using the hype, and then once they kind of get the audience, they move away from it. Or maybe it's because they get a few, you know, theories incorrect, and then after that they realize, damn, I need to kind of move away from that because I'm damaging my credibility every time I make an incorrect claim. But yeah, he has made some incorrect claims himself, to be honest with you. But in terms of the insider knowledge thing, I'm not someone who follows him religiously. I don't watch all of his content or anything like that, so I can't say for 100% certainty. I don't think he's ever claimed to have inside information as far as I am aware, but that's all I can say when it comes to that. But yeah, I just want to go through this. So we've got here insider knowledge. Coach JV, a well-known commentator, presented this warning in a recent post. Notably, claims of insider knowledge have often dominated the XRP community amid a surge in theories that suggest XRP could rise to higher valuations, such as a 3-digit price. These insider knowledge claims have bordered on Ripple partnerships, XRP's institutional adoption, and price action. For instance, Kendra Hill, an anonymous XRP community member, sprang up in 2018 and made multiple claims which many noted would only be based on insider knowledge. She propagated rumours of secret partnerships with global firms and claimed that XRP and XLM were the, quote, chosen, unquote, tokens for the future of finance. Meanwhile, most recently, a community pundit with the pseudonym, quote, the XRP guy, unquote, claimed to have met with an investment banker. According to him, the banker suggested that the bottom is in and next week would be, quote, huge for XRP, unquote. He argued that most people would regret not following him. So yeah, you kind of get the gist here, right? So I've got the actual post here by the XRP guy. So this was done on February 7th. This post was done. So we were well over that week at that point. So he said, met a huge investment banker today. He told me the bottom is in and next week is about to be huge for XRP. A lot of people will regret not following me when it happens. And so this is what I mean. Like, you look at that and I can see the post here. It's got 67,000 views. 67,000 views. And like, this is how easy it is to engagement farm. You've got a random guy on X. Can't see, you know, who he is. I mean, he's got a picture, but to me, I'll be honest with you, it looks like AI to me. I don't think that's the real person. It just looks like it's a avatar that they've made. But that's my assumption. So you got a random guy just saying, yeah, I met a huge investment banker today, and he's just telling you like this is going to be huge for XRP. And a week has passed. What has happened? Has anything huge happened for XRP? No. But you see how at the bottom he said a lot of people will regret not following me. So you know what that happens? It's a call to action, right? Like, obviously he's hoping he'll just get a load of followers off at the back of this. And then all he'll do is just move on to a new theory. He'll just make up some more stuff. Like he said, I met a huge investment banker today. Who? Like, that's all he has to say. But this is the thing, because the community believe this kind of stuff and they think all this kind of thing is really going on, it's easy for them to see this stuff and think it's true. You know, they just take it at face value, unfortunately. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously there will be some who will, you know, call him out and say it's nonsense, but a lot of people will just take it at face value. And this is how people get caught up in it, and because they like what they hear. Oh yeah, I'll follow him. That sounds really good. That sounds exciting. They'll probably forget the fact that he'd even said that, or even if they don't, he'll probably just say something new, which again sounds positive, so they'll keep going. You know, like, if we look at Jay Claver, like, you know, when he got his whole thing wrong about XRP reaching $100 by the end of 2025, he basically did just that. He just said, hey, yeah, okay, I got it wrong, but I still stand by what I said and it will happen. And it's just like, it's easy to just do that and move on. Like, yes, he will have lost some followers. Don't get me wrong, he will have damaged his credibility, but his core base are just going to accept that. They're just going to say, okay, you got it wrong, but we still believe long term you're correct. So they're just going to stick with him. So he's at a point now where he's got a big enough base where he'd really have to do a lot to like lose his core following. Right? And because like what he's saying isn't necessarily like time sensitive, so he gives a time frame. He'll say it'll, you know, hit a price within this time frame. But he can just say, oh, well, it'll happen this year then. If not this year, it'll happen next year. Like, he's got that thing where he can keep going, and there's no way to definitively show he's wrong because he can keep kicking the can down the road and moving the dates. And so this is where it gets messy, right? And so what I'm just trying to show you guys off the back of this is that, you know, there's a lot of people out there who, unfortunately, they just don't have your best interests at heart. They don't. For me personally, I just don't want people to really like believe something that's completely incorrect and then be waiting on something that's never going to happen. Now, if people choose to believe me or not, that's up to them. And look, I'm not here to tell you what will or won't happen. I can just tell you what's realistic and what isn't. And I've got plenty of information and data. Please just check out my, my archive if you want to see why I believe this. I just believe there's plenty of data to say the $10,000 stuff, it just isn't realistic. And even people like this, like a lot of these influencers that you see coming out, they're just jumping on XRP because it's got a big community. And then they know if I just say things like positive that just reaffirm people's beliefs of what they want to be true, I will get a big following. Like I've seen people being called like a genius and things like that just because they're saying, oh yeah, XRP is going to go to $10,000. That's all it takes. But if you say it's not going to go to $10,000, it's the opposite, right? You're an idiot. You're an absolute fool. It's so easy to just think like that, right? I mean, I did a video very recently and, I was talking about how David Schwartz had said he doesn't think it's likely that XRP could get to $50. And while I was surprised to see that, and don't necessarily agree that, it's unlikely, I don't know how likely it is or isn't, and I just acknowledge that David Schwartz is just giving his opinion. He's just like anyone else. You've got to understand, like, yes, he created XRP, but when he's just speculating on price, he doesn't know anything either. So people are like kind of taking his word as gospel, but he's just sharing his opinion, So I don't kind of like take that as, oh my God, it just can't happen now because he said that. No, that's just what he thinks. But he could be wrong, right? He's been wrong in the past about price action. He said this. He said, I sold a lot of XRP early and Bitcoin early because I didn't realize it was going to go to the prices that it did. So he made a mistake there. So anybody can make mistakes with this. When it comes to price, everybody's just speculating. Nobody knows for sure. But when I did cover that, and I was saying, I just respect the honesty of David Schwartz there. I think it's good that he's just being honest because I'd rather him tell the truth than him just being here saying, oh yeah, XRP $10,000 when, he really just didn't believe that. And, someone came in and said, oh, you've misinterpreted what he said. I'm like, what's there to misinterpret? What on earth can you misinterpret about him saying that in his opinion, he doesn't think $50 is likely for XRP? But this is what I mean. People try and like make something out of nothing, even when they've got people here telling you, hey, I don't think this is likely, which is just his opinion, as I say. But they're still trying to spin it and turn it into something else. And this is what the influencers will do as well. And this is where when people want to believe something so desperately, they will just take whatever they can to confirm their beliefs. So if an influencer comes around and says, oh, that's not what David Schwartz meant. That's not how he meant it. They'll be like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I knew that weren't what it was. And of course, they're just going to believe it because that's what they want to believe. They don't want to believe that David Schwartz is just telling you his honest opinion. And that's that he doesn't believe it's as likely that XRP will get to $50. Do you see what I mean? So I'm just doing this just to show you guys that, look, there's a lot of people out there who are just trying to get money out of you. Like, they're going to say whatever you want to hear. They're salespeople, right? A lot of influencers, unfortunately, who want to do this as a career, they're salespeople. So they're selling you what you want to hear. They're trying to play to your desires and your wants. So they're treating it like a business. That's the thing for me. I have a job. I have a career. So I don't do this like a business. I just do it out of fun. It's just something I enjoy doing. So that's why I can just tell the truth, because if I don't have a huge YouTube channel, it's not the end of the world for me. It's fine. But a lot of people are doing this as a job. So if they start telling the truth, a lot of their engagement goes down. They're not getting the same amount of money. It's going to impact them. So they can't just start turning around and telling the truth. They have to keep going and they have to keep pushing all these narratives because that's what gets the engagement up. So this is what I'm trying to show you. Like, this is all a game to these people. For these people, they're making a lot of money doing all this. Believe me, they are. Like 67,000 views off of that basic post with absolutely no context, like no confirmation of who they're talking about, just saying one little thing about XRP, which we can clearly now see was wrong. And they've got massive engagement out of that. They'll have made money out of that, huge money. So look, I'm just trying to show you guys to be careful, because as always, it is filled with a lot of people out here they're just using you. It's just that simple. So, just be careful of the people you listen to. But I definitely agree. People who are trying to make out like they've got inside information, talking like they've had talks with people and things like that. They've got no idea. They're just making things up. They're not going to tell you. That's why they say, oh, I can't say. I've spoken with these people, but I can't say. Yeah, you can't say because you're making it up. That's why. It's obvious. So yeah, just another word of warning here, guys. I do agree with Coach JV overall. You have got to be careful with this, because there's a lot of people who will just feed you a lot of nonsense. But I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell. Take care.